Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'd like to go over NUWE. This was a massive mover in the pre-market session, and we were able to trade this one with success this morning. Locked in profit, shut it down. Profit protection mode is on. 169% to the top of this move, give or take. This was a massive move for NUWE this morning, and this started quite early. If I go over here, this is 4 a.m. in the morning, so if I zoom in, this was the start of that move. So right at 4 a.m., which is pretty early on for a lot of traders, so not a lot of traders are getting in at this time. However, it was spiking up here. It had very little volume on our histogram. That's our volume histogram down below. So we're looking for the yellow histogram bars and the green. So we've got yellow here, we've got green over here. So that's going to let us know that we have that adequate volume, that we're looking for high quality type of trades. Otherwise, we're trading with low volume, and we know that's going to be lower quality, and we're just making adjustments to our size and stop level. But turning on the 1 minute bullish pivot pro, that's going to be the indicator we'll go over in this example. And this is the indicator I'm using every day live in voice, Monday through Friday. So it's going to plot the pivot zones. It's going to give us the color change on the candles, and it's going to give us the trend zone as well. So it's multiple things that are happening here at one time. So what's happening is, if we use this in conjunction with the volume down below, what I'm looking for is a signal something like this one here. If you see this signal over here, it started to be paired with volume. Volume is picking up, increasing. We now have adequate volume. So this is something I'm looking for. Now for me, this was early on. So this was around, 4:30 in the morning, pre-market Eastern time. So this is not something that I'm in love with. However, if you're trading during that time, that's great. You can get yourself a trade here. Once it closes above this pivot zone is then acting as a form of support. So if you're getting in above the pivot zone on this pullback, maybe, of course, you're looking for it to hold above that pivot zone. Now, this would be a hefty loss if you were getting in, say, even the top of this candle, stopping out down here below this. You know, you could suffer a 16%, even a 20% loss on something like that. So it's just extremely high risk. You want to be very careful of that. The potential profit made here, of course, if you're buying the close of that candle, was a maximum of 11%, $1.33 per share. And this is in a matter of minutes. This is a 1 minute chart. So a really impressive move there, but very high risk. We know that. We've got the lack of volume on the signal. We do have this now trend. So another strategy here is to look for the spike candle there. So if you don't like trading that first initial spike, you can always look for a pullback into your zone. So the idea of this trend zone here is it's green and possibly blue on yours. And the reason for it is it's showing a bullish trend area. So this is going to be our area of value, so we can buy into the dip here. Once it dips in, same idea, our stop loss is going to be below the area. The reason I like that setup is really because if you're buying this close here and your stop is below that trend area, it's going to be a hefty loss, right? Your stop may be down here 12%, 16% or more. If you're buying the pullback, something like this, then your stop loss is going to be here. It's going to be more manageable, right? A 7% stop loss. So yes, it is high risk because it's a pullback strategy. It's not above the recent pivot zone. So yes, it is higher risk. However, it's still going to provide those type of entries that you can get into and then help mitigate risk by sticking to a plan. It pulled back here. It gave a little setup there. So if you're buying that setup at this, say this pullback, and it spiked maybe a peak there of about 7%, 81 cents per share. So again, a really nice win in a matter of just a few minutes. However, these are just quick scalps. These are not really trend trades because we are lacking volume, consistent volume. And of course, this is still early on. It's around 4 a.m. So we'll continue here and just move on. The pivot zone was then formed. We closed above the pivot zone. That's why you're seeing this green candle, but we are seeing a BVT alert. A BVT alert is a bullish vertical trend. If I hover over that BVT, it's going to let us know that we just want to be careful trading around that. So if I'm not in the position, then I'm looking to possibly, and the BVT just, there it goes, disappeared for a second. So the BVT here is basically letting us know that this is a bullish vertical trend. I want to be careful because if I'm in the position, of course, I'm looking to lock in profit whenever I see this alert. If I'm not in the position, then I'm looking to adjust my size and stop level or just avoid and look for another setup elsewhere. The reason for it, it's basically saying it's extended, right? The price is extended. It could need a breather. Doesn't always happen. It could, in theory, continue. However, more times than not, it likes to pull back, and that's exactly what happened. So yes, it peaked out here, pulled back to the zone. Again, if you're looking for this spike and then retest of your zone, this would be your retest. So you'd be getting in on something like this. You'd be up maybe 1% at most at the top of this move, but then it failed. So this would be a fail and a loss for me. Now we're looking to pair the volume with the signal. So this was the signal. Yes, we did have volume. So I could be possibly buying this type of setup here, except this did turn into a loss. But again, this is still early on. This is around 5 a.m. Eastern time. So we'll move on. Chopped up here, no volume. Okay, we're not too concerned with that. Right here, we do have some volume on this candle. That is not a signal. Okay, we'll sit out. Here is a signal. Didn't have volume. Okay, we'll sit out. All of a sudden, we had a signal right here. That is a plus. We like to see that, but it is high risk. We have no volume. So we didn't start to pick up in volume till this candle, the BVT, and that was a BVT, so we know it's going to possibly pull back. It then pulled back into the trend zone, and this is where I'd be looking for that entry because that trend zone is now my area of value. So as I get into the trend zone here in this pullback, all of a sudden within a few minutes, let's see, 4 minutes later, you're up 12% on your position. And that's a really nice win. Now, not only that, you're then holding for more, and it didn't cross over till here, and then all of a sudden it gave another signal here. So if you missed out on this, right, what's happening is it's plotting the pivot zone. So you can look for a close above the pivot zone to get in. That's an entry, right? You can look for a close below the pivot zone to get out, or anything coming below that pivot zone is basically bearish momentum, excuse me. So that's something we want to be careful of. So every time we form a pivot zone, that's great. It's giving us another opportunity to possibly get in if we haven't already. So a lot of traders will say, oh man, I missed out on this entry. Now I don't want to chase it. Well, we're not chasing it. We're sticking to our strategy. Close above the pivot zone, bullish. Close below the pivot zone, bearish. It's a simple strategy. Pair it with volume and we're good to go. Closed above here, held the zone, tested that area of value, and then continued to peak here, make new highs. So if you were buying this pullback, all of a sudden you're again up 10%, $1.33 in a matter of 9 minutes. So a nice quick win. And then all of a sudden, if you missed all of that, that's fine. Here's your short signal. You can go short here, or you can look for this signal here, the long trend signal. All of a sudden, you can see we had volume down below. That is our first green bar. Excuse me, this was our first green bar. So this was a nice volume candle here. This here was another volume candle at 6:57 a.m. Eastern time. Spiked up, gave us the volume we're looking for, closed above the trend zone, and is a green candle. So we're seeing the strategy and the trend is in conjunction here. A pullback, there's our first pullback into that area. Okay, we're buying that pullback. There it is. And all of a sudden we're peaking out over here at 22%. What a nice move in 6 minutes. So within 6 minutes, you're up 22% on your position. These scalps are adding up, and this is going to be, of course, paired with volume. So this is typically what I'm looking to trade. I did trade this setup in the morning. And then as we are moving here, what's happening is we are getting these trend reversals, right? A trend reversal. However, we don't see the green candles. The reason for it is the green candles would not appear until we get above the most recent pivot zone, which is right here. So we're basically walking up like a staircase, right? And as we come back down, we need to get back to the top before it's considered to be bullish. So it is a bullish trend or a long trend, but it is not a bullish strategy. So I hope that makes sense. As we pull back here, this is a short opportunity. Okay, we went long here. It did not. It failed. Okay. You can go long here. All of a sudden it failed. So these would be just little chop up losses, but not huge, right? But still, these are higher risk. So I want to be careful of that. Be aware of that. We're looking for those green candles in conjunction with the green trend. Well, we didn't get that until over here, right before market open. If you notice, this was our zone. I'll draw a line just so we can see that. And it's a yellow line. I'm not sure why that is. And okay, there we go. So that line and that candle right there is the first candle closing above that line in pivot zone. That's why it's green. So we closed above, green reversal candle there. Okay, bullish momentum. So we're looking to go long here. We can pair it with volume. We do have volume on this candle, a lot of volume, and we do have a green trend. So now we're looking for a stop to be just below. Market opens. Okay, we have a hard stop. All of a sudden it starts gapping up. We put a trailing stop. It moves up with the price. And then all of a sudden we formed this pivot zone at the top of this move. And that was after a BVT. So again, letting us know if you haven't taken profit yet, this is a good place to possibly take some of that profit. And if you're not in the position, maybe look for that close above the pivot zone that has just recently formed before jumping in, right? We want to see that positive signal before we jump into the position long. Instead, we can look for short opportunities. If you're a short trader, this is your reversal. This was your fail of that pivot zone, and this was a nice short. Okay, and let me get rid of this line here so you can see. So again, this one here, this was a signal, closed above the pivot zone, was above the trend, had the volume. That is what we're looking for. It was right before market open, exploded into the price, BVT at the top of this move, pivot zone then formed, looking for the opportunity. If we want continuation, we want to see it above that pivot zone, just didn't get it. Faded off, and ever since we've had a couple of opportunities here. You can see right here we have let me see, I'm not sure where I just hit there. You can see on the chart we have this little reversal here, and not the green candles. All of a sudden it failed that reversal, right? So again, short traders took control. Now we're looking for another trade here. Okay, it's failing the pivot zone out of your position. So it's giving you opportunities for these bounce watch plays. And the reason it's giving you the green candles here now is because we have new pivot zones being formed. So those new pivot zones are going to allow us to have an area of value. But truth be told, guys, this will not be continuation until we get above this pivot zone, which is the highest pivot zone reached. This is now a support. Yes, 1490. It has given a trade there. It is at 17. So sure, there's an opportunity there, but this is, again, a lower quality type of setup. This is a higher quality type setup, close above this with the trend. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. A quick breakdown here on NUWE using one indicator, our 1 minute bullish pivot pro. I think from the early pre-market session, this was a really nice setup for anyone who was trading early on. Of course, it was a little choppy here and there, but that's due to the factors that we went over. So guys, if you have any questions, reach out in Discord, and I'll see you in the chat. And we'll be live trading Monday through Friday using this strategy each day. Thanks, guys.
Remember, trading isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared. If you're serious about improving and want to learn directly from our live sessions, visit bullishboblive.com. We're live Monday to Friday, walking through setups, strategies, and everything in between. Thanks again for watching. Stay focused, stay sharp, and keep growing.